All right, guys, welcome everybody. We're going to get right into this. This is Tom Homan. He is going to give us an ICE update here. We are waiting for President Trump to come in and make an announcement in just a couple minutes, and we'll cut to that live. So let's listen
Too early, isn't it?
to Tom Homan.
Look, I've been given talking points, and I don't like reading speeches, never have. But my chief of staff did put some stuff down here in writing just to make sure I don't miss anything. So
And we are going to cut to the White House in just a couple of moments. Welcome, everybody. Come in. Let's get this
I've been on the
going.
ground less than 3 full days. I got in here Monday. President of the United States called me Monday morning and asked me to deploy here. Got here Monday evening, and I'm staying till the problem's gone. But we've made a lot of progress in the last 3 days. Marcos Charles, he's running ICE operations here. There you go. Rodney Scott, Commissioner of Customs and Border Protection, standing here beside me. Good morning, I'm Tom Homan, the Border Czar for President Trump. I'm here on behalf of the President, along with U.S. Commissioner of U.S. Customs and Border Protection, Rodney Scott, and Marcos Charles, who's leading the enforcement effort here right now. I've been on the ground since Monday to regain law and order in the city beloved by many, and work together to remove threats from the community. During the past administration, well, I'll remember, more than 10 million illegal aliens entered this nation. Many were national security threats, public safety threats. We can't remember over 2 million.
What's up, Ghost? Welcome. Everybody hit that like button for me.
2 million people who paid more to get away. Why? That should scare the hell out of everybody. President Trump promised American people, including the residents of Minnesota,
Greetings,
that
everyone.
he
Come
would
on
work
in.
to ensure our communities are safe. And with that, this administration is absolutely focused on identifying and removal aliens that pose a public safety threat and national security threats. And the numbers prove it. The data proves it. In the past few days, I've met with Governor Walz, Attorney General Ellison, Mayor Fry, numerous police chiefs and sheriffs, and I have more to meet. I'll also be continuing the dialogue with business and religious leaders in partnership with Minnesota, your community leaders. I'll be meeting with them too because I want to hear what they have to say. In my meetings with folks so far, and most importantly, the governor and the AG, the Mayor Fry, we didn't agree on everything. I didn't expect to agree on anything. I've heard many people want to know why we're talking to people who they don't consider friends to the administration. Bottom line is you can't fix problems if you don't have discussions. I didn't come to Minnesota for photo ops or headlines. You haven't seen me. I came here to seek solutions, and that's what we're going to do. And we've come a long way, and we got some good wins for the people of Minnesota, I think, and for the administration and for the safety and security of this city. One thing we did agree on, though, everybody I talked to agreed on, was that community safety is paramount. One thing we all agreed on was U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement is a legitimate law enforcement agency that has a duty to enforce the laws enacted by Congress and keep this community safe. Like I've said many times for the last several years, even before this administration, jurisdictions that refuse to cooperate with federal immigration authorities are sanctuaries for criminals. Sanctuary cities are sanctuaries for criminals and endangers the residents of the community. To be clear, we did not agree with Minnesota state and local officials that they would be involved in immigration enforcement. I didn't ask them to be immigration officers. I'm asking them to be cops working with the cops to help state criminal aliens off the street. What we did agree upon is not to release public safety arrests back in the community when they could be lawfully transferred to ICE. I'll speak more about that. I will highlight that the Minnesota State Prison System under the Department of Corrections have been honoring ICE detainers. And we appreciate that important collaboration, and we're going to expand upon that. That decision has made Minnesota safer, not only for residents of Minnesota, but the men and women law enforcement. Not just ICE, all law enforcement. Rather than arresting the same public safety threat, significant public safety threat over and over again, they agree to work with us to identify those people and remove them. I'm also pleased to announce I had a very good meeting with Attorney General Ellison, and he has clarified for me that county jails may notify ICE of the release dates of criminal public safety risks so ICE can take custody of them upon their release from the jail. And let me tell you why that's important. I know people are a lot concerned about the manpower has been saying.
That's huge.
Manpower. Look, I've said this many times before. I've said it for the last several years. Give us access to the illegal alien public safety threat and the safety and security of a jail. It's common sense. It's safer for the community. It's safer for the agent. And
listening now to Tom Homan, who has gone to Minneapolis to
it just makes common sense.
Tighten the reins.
And for the people that argue.
And we are now waiting for the live announcement from the White House from President Donald Trump. We'll be getting to that in just a second. It's about to start. So stay with me. Hit the like button. Glad to have everybody here. Thank you so much for joining me.
Without fear of their work with ICE. We're not going to talk to the victim witness of crime. There's no problem there. They should feel safe to come to the police and ask for help. All we want is to talk to the person that local and state law enforcement authorities locked in a jail cell. They chose to lock this person up. That's who we want to talk to, the public safety threat. So that argument is that protects victim witnesses of crime.
Hey, everybody.
It's a bunch of crap. Victims and witnesses of crime don't want the bad guy back in their neighborhood either.
That's true.
So great progress with the Attorney General and local sheriffs. And one thing, when we have these agreements, it takes less law enforcement agents to do the job. One agent can arrest one bad guy.
Oh, just another day at the office.
Jail where he's behind the wire. We know we don't have weapons. But when you normally release that public safety threat, illegal alien back in the community,
no,
we have a job to do. We're going to arrest them. So we're going to find them. And what happens is now we got to arrest somebody on his turf. We have access to who knows what weapons. Now we got to send a whole team out. Cover the back door, cover the front door, officer safety reasons. Then because of the hateful rhetoric and the attacks on ICE officers, now we got to send a security team behind the arrest team. So what could have been done with one person in a safety and security jail, now we got 15, 16 people out there doing it. I know that causes stress in the community. So if we get these agreements in place, that means less agents on the street. More agents in the jail means less agents in the street. This is common sense cooperation that allows us to draw down on the number of people we have here. Yes, I said it. Draw down the number of people here. Because we have the efficiency and safety of the jails and the prison. Matter of fact, I have staff from CBP and from ICE working on a draw-down plan. What does that look like based on the cooperation? What does that look like based on how many targets we have left to find? In my meetings with Governor Walz, AG Ellison, and Mayor Fry, as well as state and local law enforcement, again, I appreciate they all acknowledge that we do have federal immigration laws in this country that have been passed by Congress, and that ICE is in fact a legitimate law enforcement agency charged with enforcing those laws. We're not making this up, folks. ICE is enforcing laws enacted by Congress. They're a federal statute. That said, I'm not here because the federal government has carried its mission out perfectly. First thing I said to senior staff when I walked in here is what I told you earlier. I didn't come here looking for photo ops or headlines. I come here looking for solutions. I do not want to hear that everything's been done here has been perfect. Nothing's ever perfect. Anything can be improved on. And what we've been working on is making this operation safer, more efficient, by the book. The mission is going to improve because of the changes we're making internally. No agency or organization is perfect. And President Trump and I, along with others in the administration, have recognized that certain improvements could and should be made. That's exactly what I'm doing here. As such, in meetings I've had with federal law enforcement,
Yeah, that's not for here, Ghost. Thanks, though.
CBP and other federal partners, as well as state and local officials, I have conveyed the president's expectations with regard to federal immigration enforcement.
Nobody's going to get it here. We'll do it later.
We will conduct targeted enforcement operations. Targeted. What we've done for decades. When we hit the streets, we know exactly who we're looking for. Good idea where we may find them. You have criminal history. You have their immigration history. A lot of information about this person that we get from numerous
the inside
databases out there. Targeted, strategic enforcement operations. That's traditionally been the case, and that's where we're going. That's what we're going to continue to do and improve upon that. With a prioritization on public safety threats. I want to be clear. I don't read a lot of social media. I don't read a lot of media. I don't believe half what I see.
Oh, come on. We know you got a TikTok.
We are not surrendering the president's mission in immigration enforcement. Let's make that clear. Prioritization of criminal aliens doesn't mean we forget about everybody else. That's just simply ridiculous. But when you have a criminal standing here and a non-criminal standing there, that criminal always should be targeted first because he's a significant concern to the safety and security of the community. By and large, for decades, ICE and CBP have carried out their duties with integrity, professionalism, and compassion. That remains the expectation of
I don't think those are the stats, but okay.
And I will hold our agents and officers to that standard. I'm almost done, and Tom can be Tom. As far as the agitators, that said, I want to reiterate and make very clear.
Well, that should just show that both sides endorse this guy, right?
I want to make it clear.
That makes sense.
CBP officers are performing their duties in a challenging environment under tremendous circumstances, but they're trying to do it with professionalism. If they don't, they'll be dealt with. Like any other federal agency, we have standards of conduct. They are sworn law enforcement officers working tirelessly to enforce our country's border security and immigration laws, protecting the interests of our country and preventing dangerous people from walking the streets of this nation when they're not supposed to be here to begin with.
Right.
Men and women of ICE, I was a Border Patrol agent. I was an ICE agent. I was the first ICE director that came up through the ranks. I spent over 40 years doing this. These men and women that carry that badge and gun are American patriots. They put themselves on the line for this nation every day. But I want you to remember, they don't hang their badge, they don't hang their heart on a hook every day they come to work. They're mothers and fathers too. They're sons and daughters too. You know, if they've seen a fraction of the tragedies I see in my career, they take a lot of damage home to every day. The things they've seen.
Hit that like button, guys.
Especially on the border with border agents. People drowning in the river. Women being raped by criminal cartels. Giving CPR to a baby that was thrown in the river by the cartels because Border Patrol came too close. So let's throw the baby in the river. That way the Border Patrol was concentrating on that so I can get away. These men and women see some terrible things. But I want you to remember, they're mothers and fathers too. Many of them are members of this community. God bless every one of them. The hostile rhetoric and dangerous threats and hate must stop. And we all agreed to that. All everybody met here to tell you, we got to stop the rhetoric, the hateful rhetoric that has caused an increase in assaults. That has caused, because of that, have to send security teams out with arrest teams, which surge the city with additional resources because of the rhetoric, because of the threats, because of the assaults. Again, with the agreements we've achieved and following through these agreements, with the rhetoric dropping down, that allows us to pull more agents out once we feel the environment safer. I begged for the last 2 months on TV for the rhetoric to stop. I said in March, if the rhetoric didn't stop, there's going to be bloodshed. And there has been.
Yep.
I wish I wasn't right. I don't want to see anybody die. Not officers, not members of the community, and not the targets of our operations. For the people out there who don't like what ICE is doing, if you want certain laws reformed, then take it up with Congress. Again, ICE is making this up. They're enforcing laws enacted by Congress and signed by the president. The same laws have been on the books for the last 6 presidents I worked for. I started with President Reagan and ending with President Trump. Every administration, we enforce the same laws.
Wow, he started under Reagan.
If you don't like what ICE is doing, instead of protesting this building, go protest Congress. Tell me what changes. If you have your First Amendment rights, I support that. You have the right to protest. I'm just asking you to keep it peaceful. But threatening law enforcement officers, engaging in impeding and obstruction and assault is never okay. And there will be zero tolerance. You interfere, impede, assault ICE officers, you will be arrested.
We are going to be going to the Trump announcement at the White House in just a second.
I said a bit earlier, I meet with Walton and Frey, as well as state and local law enforcement. I appreciate they acknowledge this, that public safety should be paramount. The chiefs I've talked to committed to responding to 911 calls when protesters turn violent, agents are in a dangerous situation, and there's assaults. They have committed to upholding public safety and responding to the needs, not to enforce immigration law, but to keep the peace. With that, I call upon those officials to stand shoulder to shoulder with us to tone down the dangerous rhetoric and condemn all unlawful action against law enforcement in the community. There are many ways your voice can be heard, express your feelings, and affect change in the country without crossing that line. Political and other disagreements in this realm should not be at the expense of public safety or the safety of federal law enforcement officers. In closing, I want to thank the state and local officials here in Minnesota I met with and the many I'm going to meet with. We've had meaningful dialogue. And look, again, we didn't agree on everything, but we agreed on the things I just talked about. There's much more we can do. And I'm going to continue this dialogue. I got many more community leaders to talk to. I got many more sheriffs to meet. President Trump wants this fixed. And I'm going to fix it. With your help. I want to thank President Trump for his unwavering commitment to public safety and prosperity of every American. Under the President's leadership, we have the most secure border in the history of this nation, which means less women are being raped.
Secure borders are good.
Less children are dying crossing that border. Less fentanyl is getting in this country to kill Americans. Less known suspected terrorists are crossing that country.
Less Fenty.
And we don't have too many.
We like that.
We don't know who the hell they are. A secure border, we have stronger national security. A secure border saves lives. When 96% less people come in, how many women aren't being sucked up to be members of the cartel? How many people aren't dying making that journey? How many Americans aren't dying of fentanyl overdoses? How many women and children aren't being sex trafficked in this nation? The data proves it. Anybody can find that data. So God bless this great nation. God bless Minnesota. We can do better. And I think the local and state leaders meeting with me, we made some significant gains, significant coordination and cooperation, and you're going to see some massive changes occurring here in this city. Thank you.
Mr. Holman,
Hold on, right here.
thank you so much. Mr. Holman, Yolanda Delorto with the Associated Press. Based on how you have described these changes in the mission, can you be more specific about the objectives of Operation Metro Surge? If what you have described changes the parameters for interior enforcement only in Minnesota or also in Maine and other places? And finally, when would you consider that those objectives will be achieved and this operation will end? Or is it in terms of agents on the ground, in terms of who you are targeting for arrests?
The withdrawal of law enforcement resources here is dependent upon cooperation. Like I said, one agent arresting one bad guy in jail means less agents on the street. We have some agreements. We got more to talk about how we're going to implement those agreements. But as we see that cooperation happen, then the redeployment will happen. Look, target enforcement operations should happen across the nation. That's what we've done for decades. And with target enforcement operations, I've done many of them. It just makes it safer for everybody. When we know exactly what we're looking for, what is his criminal history, what is his immigration history, where's he live, is he in an apartment complex versus a house, has he got a known record for having weapons, it's safer for everybody. Then we know what sort of resources we need to go. And it just makes this operation cleaner, more efficient, and it's proven less violence when we know exactly what we're getting into, and we can take the necessary precautions to keep everybody safe. Some of the operations.
Like and subscribe, guys. This is Tom Homan.
In the house based on surveillance, so we know you got to be a little bit different when you go in that house because there's going to be children present. So target enforcement operations, the way we've always done it, I think we got to wait for a little bit. And we're going to make sure we do target enforcement operations. And look, and I'll say it again, we are not surrendering our mission at all. We're just doing it smarter.
Shimon Prokopez from CNN.
Let's check the temperature in the room. Put a 1 in the chat if you support ICE. Put a 2 in the chat if you do not support ICE. A 1 in the chat if you support ICE. A 2 in the chat if you do not support ICE. I want to hear people from both sides. Jump in the chat. Let's get it going. Hit the like button.
Here, in terms of, you had Greg Bovino, who was the face of this immigration operation. The mission, as you say,
What's up, Ivor?
To having border patrol agents in the interior of this country, stopping U.S. citizens, asking them for ID, creating this fear in places like Chicago and now here. And then finally, it took really the death of Alex Petty for us to get here. How did that happen? Who made the decisions to allow this kind of operation to proceed in this way and to create such fear?
Well, look, the Border Patrol, last 4 years under Joe Biden, we had an open border where 10, 12,000 people a day are coming across the border. Border Patrol got overwhelmed, which means we sent thousands of ICE agents down there to help deal with that humanitarian crisis, to help secure the border. Now we have millions of people released in this nation, many unvetted. Now we got to find them. Before the big, beautiful bill, we had a total just under 5,000 deportation officers to look for millions of people, many in public safety threats. So yes, we needed Border Patrol to come and help on our mission now. And reason for the massive deployment is because of the threats, because of the violence. Our officers need to be protected. If I'm on an operation, an arrest team, I'm going to a house, I got to be busy with that guy, the dangerous guy, and I can't keep looking over my shoulder at what's happening outside the house. So we brought extra resources in to provide that security. And as I said, as we drill down on these great agreements we got and this great understanding we have, means less. So we can draw down those resources. When the violence decreases, we can draw down those resources. But based on the discussions I've had with the governor and the AG, we can start drawing down those resources as far as those looking for public safety threats being released and doing it in the jail with much less people. So the drawdown is going to happen. based on these agreements. But the drawdown can happen even more if the hateful rhetoric and the impediment and interference will stop. So Border Patrol, I was a Border Patrol agent. These men and women are patriots. God bless them. They're here to help us. And the drawdown will come soon, depending on when this actually, I see this in play. But the agreements to have alone is going to cause a significant drawdown. So you're going to see a drawdown.
Just on a personal,
Go ahead, Ben.
you've been doing this
Ben,
for
go
40
ahead.
years. Just a
Tom Holman.
follow-up.
He's talking about the drawing down of
First off,
agents
Ben Burkholm,
in
American
Minneapolis.
Forces. On behalf of the
We're gonna come up
American
to
people, I
Iran
just
in a
wanna say
little
thank
bit.
you to you
We
and
have
to
the
all
president
agents
making
that
an
put their lives on the
announcement,
line to go after the
and we're
people that
catching
were
up now on
rallying
some
through the
ICE
last
updates
administration. We
in the
watched
city
that
of
happen in
Minneapolis.
The media, the honest media, covered up by many of the media that are behind me. We want to say thank you, and to all the men and women that are out there. Can you talk to us about what's being done with the leadership on these signal chats, on these WhatsApp chats that are organizing the attacks against you, the obstruction against you? Are we going to be arresting those individuals as well? And to the folks out there in America that voted for this, that want mass deportations because they saw a mass invasion under Joe Biden, what would you say to them? How are we going to get to that point?
Well, first of all, about the organization and the funding of the attacks on ICE. I'm not going to answer a lot about that because I'm not going to show our hand, but they'll be held accountable. Justice is coming. Again, we got to all remember why the questions we've seen and why we're here. What started this? 4 years of an open border, where millions of people are in this country unvetted. Remember, let's not forget, for 4 years we were told the border was secure. 4 years we were told the border was secure, and we all knew it wasn't. And I want this to be a positive thing we're doing here today. I also want to remember the politicians are continually attacking us. Where were they the last 4 years when the number of women and children sex trafficking went all-time high? Where were they when 250,000 Americans died from fentanyl coming across the border? Where were they when women and children are dying making that journey? Where were they when over 4,000 families making that journey died? Historic record. Where were they? Now we're just trying to respond to what happened the last 4 years and keeping this country safe. And we're arresting a lot of public safety threats, take them off the streets, which make this country safer. President Trump promised to make this country safe again, and that's what we're doing. But my 2.5 days up here, we made a lot of progress. I think everybody agrees on the criminal and public safety threats. They agree it's much safer and easier to arrest an alien in a facility than send a whole team out in the field that's going to draw anger, because now we got to send a bunch of people to do something that could have been done by 1 or 2 people. And I've said this for years. I have no ill will to anybody in Minnesota. All the people I talk to, we're never going to agree on everything. We have different philosophies and different opinions on immigration, but we all agree this is a way to go to reduce safety, reduce crime, reduce crime and increase safety for our operations. More people in the jail means less people on the street. It's simple math.
Lana Zach, CBS News.
Hey, Tegan.
Everybody I've spoken with agrees that if somebody has a violent criminal history and is a fugitive, they don't want them as their neighbor. But when you're talking about a targeted operation, and are you talking about targeting people whose crime is coming to this country, or is it a more specific definition now?
All operations will be targeted, but the prioritization are going to be criminal aliens, public safety threats, and national security threats. I've met with Marcos and his staff. We got to allow them. We got to allow them to keep us busy. So that would be our focus.
If that is enough, that's what, there is not going to be a focus on people who have no other crimes except for their status.
If you're in the country illegally, you're never off the table. But prioritization doesn't mean you forget about everybody. So let me say this. If the message we send is you can enter this country legally. It's a crime. Don't worry about it. You can have your due process, show up in court, not show up in court, get ordered removed. Don't worry about it. Unless you commit a serious
absolute
crime,
absolute corruption.
if that's the message we send to the world, you're never going to fix this problem.
Yeah.
The most vulnerable people in the world will make
Absolute
that
power
dangerous journey
corrupts
like they did under the
absolutely.
Joe Biden administration, over 4,000 aliens died making that journey. And it's, again, a significant
Lord
increase in
acted.
sex trafficking. Because when they did
19th
that
century.
and opened those borders up saying, we're not going to detain you, we're going to give you free health care, we're going to fly you to the city of your choice, put you in a free hotel room, give you 3 meals a day, and give you work authorization, we're just going to bring you in. And when they did that, they sent a message to the whole world, you can come and do this. And what happened? They overwhelmed the men and women of the Border Patrol, where many days 70% of agents were pulled off that line. 70%. You don't think the criminal cartels had a field day with that? They created gaps for the cartels do their activity. And that's why you've seen the rise in fentanyl overdose. That's why you saw the rise in sex trafficking. The 2 million plus known gotaways, why did they pay more to get away? Why didn't they pay less? Turn yourself in, get released within 24 hours. You get a free airline ticket to the city of your choice. We're going to give you a free hotel room, and we'll give you free food and free medical care. And you'll get work authorization in 6 months. Why did 2 million people choose to pay more not to take advantage of that gateway program? They didn't want to be vetted. They didn't want to be fingerprinted. That scares the hell out of me. And it does still. The Trump administration with ICE and Secretary Noem and Marco Rubio and the intelligence community, Tulsi Gabbard, we're all working together to try to identify who these people are. And we've already found many of them. But it's hard work to do. But there are national security threats walking this nation because of the last administration. And they are one of our main priorities, too.
Thank you. Can you please be specific about how many ICE and how many Border Patrol agents are currently operating in the state?
I think we're near 3,000. There's been some rotations. Another thing I witnessed when I came here, I'll share this with you. I met with a lot of people, a lot of the agents. They've been in theater. Some of these people have been in theater for 8 months. So there's going to be rotations of personnel. Hopefully less now that we have some agreements. Maybe we can make it more efficient and safe. But they've been in theater a long time. And so, there's rotations happen all the time to get people out here and go home, get some rest and see their families. Day after day, can't eat in restaurants, day after day, having people spit on you, blow whistles at you, day after day, having all these threats at you, day after day, having people trying to interfere with you, day after day. They're human. So, we've got to rotate these people, and we've already rotated some. But my main focus now is drawdown based upon the great conversations I've had with your state and local leaders. Again, I'm not a fool. I'm not walking away without seeing this put in place. But I take the word of the people I met with. I think they're honest, and I think they're good brokers, that they want public safety protected, and they also want what's happening in the city to go away. And that's my goal.
Last question in the back.
Mueller Newsmax. The new video of Alex Preddy is now circulating. Your reaction to that, and do you think law enforcement could have played a role if, let's say, Minneapolis police were able to respond to that? Have those top law enforcement officials said they'll help or do anything to help these agents who are out here?
I'm not going to comment on any of these shootings. I said from day one, I said on any of these shootings, as a career law enforcement officer, we'll let the investigation roll out, let the investigation play out, and let it go where it goes. I'm not going to come out and make any comments that I think is right, wrong. Do I have an opinion? Yeah, my personal opinion, but I'm not going to share that with you. I'm going to tell you, let the investigation play out and see where it goes.
Tell us your personal opinion.
Again, the
Why not?
president, one of the words he said to me when I came up here, he said he didn't want to see anybody die. The less interference, the less rhetoric, the less, I have buried Border Patrol agents and I buried ICE agents throughout my career, and the saddest thing I've ever done is hold
A flag.
hand a folded flag to a wife
Yep.
or a child. I don't want to see anybody die. Even the people we're looking for. I don't want to see anybody die. And despite what people think of Tom Homan, I say a prayer every night that everybody goes home safe. This isn't good.
Do you believe him?
But I think my
Let me know in the
conversations
chat.
last
Let me know if
2.5
you believe
days
him.
are leading us to a safer
Put a 1 in the chat if you believe him. Put a 2 in the chat if you do not believe him. Let's go.
community. Let ICE officers operate in the safety and security of a jail more than on the street. I think anybody here with common sense would say it's safer to arrest a public safety threat in the safety and security of a jail. And let me tell you, what is that going to result in? Less collateral arrests. When we go find that bad guy, when we find that bad guy, many times it's with others. Well, guess what? They're in the country illegally. We're going to enforce immigration law. They're coming too. You want less collateral arrest? Let us in the jail. But we're going to enforce immigration law. For the people to say we're here to surrender our authority and the mission of enforcing immigration law, you are wrong. We're going to do targeted
Like and
enforcement
subscribe,
operations,
guys.
and
Hit
we're
that
gonna
like button. Subscribe
prioritize
to the channel. We're waiting on the
safety
Trump
threats and
announcement
national
from the White
security
House.
threats. That is what we're here to do.
I got plenty. All right, so there's no more questions. What we're going to do right now while we're waiting for the president to come out, Ilhan Omar just the other day had a little bit of a ruckus at one of her events, and we're going to take a look at that right now. Now, do you think this is real or do you think it's a hoax? Let's go.
On what has been happening on the ground and raise the alarm. Trump and his paramilitary immigration enforcement will not get away with their unlawful attacks on our state. The Constitution is on our side, and we will fight every single day to defend it. As it's been said, real justice and accountability starts with full, transparent investigation and legal action
Here it comes.
against ICE, followed by the abolishment of the agency. ICE cannot be reformed. It cannot be rehabilitated. We must abolish ICE for good. And DHS Secretary Kristi Noem must resign or face impeachment.
Leave Christy. Oh, boy.
I don't know.
So someone up and sprayed something on her.
I need
Does this have Jesse Smollett vibes to you guys?
to know nothing. No, we will continue. No.
They're trying to tell her to go to the hospital.
No, we will continue. These fucking assholes are not going to get away with it.
Ooh, spicy.
That's whatever it is smells so bad. She needs to go get checked. I don't know what that
That's
was.
what they want. Please don't let them know.
It's not about him, Ilhan. Ilhan, it's not about him. It's about your safety. No, he sprayed something on you. You need to go get checked. Yeah, and it smells terrible.
I think he just
We're gonna
gassed
keep
her a little
talking.
bit. You know.
Just give me 10 minutes.
So there is there is what happened the other day. Let's take a little look at what is going on in Iran. A full-on strike package is on the way. Iran is surrounded. Let's have a look.
Today, U.S. forces are conducting military training operations in the Middle East after President Trump's warning to Iran.
There's another beautiful armada floating beautifully toward Iran right now. So we'll see. I hope they make a deal.
The USS Abe Lincoln arrived to the region this week amid ongoing protests in Iran that have killed at least 6,200 people. And as the Trump administration pressures Iran to negotiate a deal that prevents them from having nuclear weapons. The U.S. attacked Iran's nuclear program last year. Trump today posting on social media, quote, "The next attack will be far worse." Iranian officials have
The next
reached out to
attack will be
fellow
far
Middle Eastern
worse.
countries as it tries to bolster support. International leaders are
We have the
calling for a
best ships.
de-escalation.
The Secretary General calls for maximum restraints and encourages all actors to
UN.
refrain from any actions that will further increase tension or ignite conflict.
The first two letters of unnecessary.
Escalation in the wider region.
Tension is also building today in Venezuela following the U.S. capture and removal of Nicolas Maduro. Interim President Delcy Rodriguez says she has had, quote, enough of Washington's orders.
Okay.
She then walked back some of those comments last night. Secretary of State Marco Rubio responding today as he testified to a group of senators.
We are dealing with people over there that have spent most of their lives living in a gangster paradise. So it's not going to be like from one day to the next.
Did he say living in a gangster paradise?
Turn around overnight. But I think we're making good and decent progress. It is the best plan, and we are certainly better off today in Venezuela than we were 4 weeks ago.
Rubio today said he ultimately believes Rodriguez's objectives align with those of the U.S.
All right, we're going to jump right to this story right here. A little more about Iran.
We have some breaking news to get to and more developments coming out of Iran on this Wednesday morning. Taking a look here at a social media post that I want to bring up, posted by President Donald Trump. And this is on an armada that is being sent there. So this was via Truth Social, the president saying this, quote, "A massive armada is heading to Iran. It is moving quickly with great power, enthusiasm, and purpose. It is a larger fleet headed by the great aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln than that sent to Venezuela. Like with Venezuela, it is ready, willing, and able to rapidly fulfill its mission with speed and violence if necessary. Hopefully, Iran will quickly come to the table and negotiate a fair and equitable deal. No nuclear weapons, one that is good for all parties. Time is running out. It is truly of the essence. As I told Iran once before, make a deal. They didn't, and there was Operation Midnight Hammer, a major destruction of Iran. The next attack will be far worse. Don't make that happen again. Thank you for your attention to this matter." Bringing us out to this live image that we have of the White House over in Washington, D.C. And I just want to recap some of the latest reporting courtesy of the Associated Press. So as we did break the fact that the president has announced that a massive armada is heading to Iran via his social media platform, Truth Social, the AP most recently also saying this, that President Trump warned also other countries there in that area, including Iraq, this happening on Tuesday, that the U.S. would no longer support the country if its former prime minister returns to power. Concerning Iraq, Trump made the threat days after the dominant political bloc known as the Coordination Framework, which is a collection of parties, announced it was backing the nomination of the former prime minister, who the U.S. administration views as too close to Iran. Now, a lot of headlines were coming out of the Middle East this week. As you know, also the final remains of a hostage that was still being held by Hamas were returned as well to Israel. We're following all of these developments very closely, but these protests in Iran do continue as well. The AP saying this, that Iranian officials reached out to the wider Middle East on Wednesday, so today, over the threat of a possible U.S. military strike on the country. It comes a month since the start of protests in Iran that soon spread nationwide and sparked a bloody crackdown. Two nations, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, have signaled they will not allow their airspace to be used for any attack, but America has moved the USS Abraham Lincoln and several guided missile destroyers into the region, which can be used to launch attacks.
And it's been reported that those boats have turned off their transponders. That is always a signal of some movement. Let's take another look at another angle.
The U.S. warned Iran. No less than President Donald Trump said that if the killing of protesters didn't stop, there would be hell to pay. But protesters still died on the streets. Others were arrested and executed. And finally, the U.S. is preparing to put its money where its mouth is. U.S. warships just arrived on Iran's doorstep, and something very bad is going to happen. The clock is ticking for Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, and he knows it. January 26th saw several outlets report on a major move that the U.S. has made to demonstrate that it's willing to throw real power behind its posturing. According to the Washington Post, the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln has arrived near Iran, along with its carrier strike group. Currently sailing deeper into the Middle East, the carrier is setting up in preparation for what might come next, be that strikes or the use of the carrier and America's other forces to push Iran into the regime change for which its protesters have been fighting for weeks. A lot of what happens next will depend on what Trump really wants, and we'll explore all of that later in the video. For now, we know that the USS Abraham Lincoln is escorted by 3 destroyers and has just moved from the western Indian Ocean, which was outside the range needed to easily strike Iran, and is expected to move into either the North Arabian Sea or the Gulf of Oman in the coming days. According to the Washington Post, the carrier strike group poses a pretty massive threat on its own. The USS Abraham Lincoln itself is crewed by 5,000 sailors and is carrying dozens of fighter jets primed and waiting to deliver their explosive munitions via airstrikes. The 3 destroyers accompanying the carrier, the USS Frankie Peterson Jr., the USS Michael Murphy, and the USS Spruance, also have dozens of missiles between them and, crucially, contain air defenses that may be able to defend the strike group against incoming Iranian drones and missiles. Trump has been more than keen to let Iran know what's coming. Speaking to reporters on January 22nd, he offered some hints that the carrier group was on its way. "We have a big flotilla going in that direction, and we'll see what happens. We have a big force going toward Iran. I'd rather not see anything happen, but we're watching them very closely," the War Zone, or TWZ, reports Trump as claiming. Trump added that this group was an armada, and, as is so often the case with the US president, he left his true intentions open to interpretation. As he said, "We have a massive fleet heading in that direction, and maybe we won't have to use it. We'll see." The same outlet also adds some details about what the USS Abraham Lincoln carrier strike group is bringing to the potential fight. TWZ says that the carrier itself consists of 8 squadrons of pilots that fly a range of aircraft, including F-35C Lightning IIs, FA-18EF Super Hornets, E-2D Hawkeyes, MH-60RS Seahawks, CMV-22B Ospreys, and EA-18G Growlers. That's a large assortment of aircraft and offers versatility in terms of optics and attack options. However, the carrier group hasn't been accompanied by influxes of air power in other locations the US would use to stage strikes against Iran. The US-based Diego Garcia, which is in the Indian Ocean, has seen no deployment of bombers. However, there have been flights of C-17 Globemaster III cargo jets to that base, so it's possible that the US is slowly setting up for something. The US has also sent Patriot and Terminal High Altitude Area Defense, or THAAD, air defense systems to the Middle East, which are presumably being deployed to fend off any retaliation that Iran musters up. But we're getting ahead of ourselves here. Interestingly, the UK is showing signs that it may get involved in whatever's coming. TWZ says that online flight trackers have recorded that several F-15E Strike Eagles, along with some KC-135 Stratotanker aerial refueling aircraft, have also left their base at Royal Air Force Lakenheath en route to the Middle East. The UK has also deployed the Typhoon squadron that it shares with Qatar to the Gulf region for what its Ministry of Defense claims are defensive purposes. TWZ also speculates that this slowly growing force will add to other assets that the US has in the Middle East, including other fighter jets at bases near Iran, a trio of Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyers, and perhaps even a submarine hiding under the depths in the waters near Iran. This terrifying attack force is moving ever closer to Iran.
More than one.
The response from the country's regime is expected. The Washington Post says that Iran's regime has placed the country's armed forces on high alert, per a senior Iranian official who spoke to reporters on January 23rd in the wake of Trump's hints about the incoming carrier group. Initially, that official seemed hopeful that things would de-escalate, stating, "This military buildup, we hope that it's not something for real confrontation, but we are ready for the worst-case scenario." However, the official added that should the US strike, the Iranian response would be far greater than that seen in the wake of the 12-day war with Israel. The official claims Iran didn't consider to be an existential threat. Iran tried to be very restrained, predictable, and measured in its responses to both Israelis and Americans, the official claimed before adding, "This time, we take any attack, limited, unlimited, surgical, kinetic, whatever they call it, as an all-out war against us, and we will respond in the hardest way possible." As common as it is for Iran to threaten retaliation against a potential aggressor, this threat needs to be taken seriously. That's according to the Times of Israel's David Kozakaru, who said in a January 22nd opinion piece that the Iranian regime may decide to move fast and escalate across multiple vectors if it believes that whatever the US is about to do could threaten the regime's existence. This escalation could include attacks on America's assets and military bases throughout the Middle East region, Kozakaru theorizes, in addition to taking action to disrupt global energy flows, along with likely attacks against Israel. The Strait of Hormuz, which Iran can attempt to shut off, is a big pressure point as about a fifth of the world's petroleum liquids, amounting to roughly 20 million barrels daily, sail through the strait. So Iran is certainly not without retaliatory options, though how realistic those options are is still a matter for debate. After all, Iran had the option of conducting strikes or similar actions in the Strait of Hormuz during its brief war with Israel, but didn't. It also didn't use the strait as a pressure point when the US and Israel cooperated on Operation Midnight Hammer, which saw 125 US military aircraft cooperate to strike a trio of Iran's nuclear facilities during the summer of 2025. So, could all of Iran's threats of counterattacking be little more than hot air? Not necessarily. In the wake of Operation Midnight Hammer, Iran did attack a US military base in Qatar. Iran launched missiles and witnesses reported loud bangs in the sky above the Qatari capital of Doha. However, the response was nowhere near the scale of the operation that preceded it, with even Trump calling the attack very weak and expected. Still, the attack does set a precedent in the sense that Iran may at least try to follow through on the threats that it presents, even if those threats aren't as powerful as its regime's rhetoric claims them to be. YouTuber Max Afterburner, who is a former F-16 and F-15E fighter pilot, notes that Iran certainly has the rhetoric in place. Afterburner claims that Iran is trying its hardest to let the US know that it has anti-ship missiles that it could use to attack the USS Abraham Lincoln and its strike group. They're basically trying to say that their anti-ship missiles can reach out and touch the carrier strike group, Afterburner states.
Well, you have to find them first.
Adding 1,200 nautical mile range on some of those. And they're saying these hypersonics are what could be the real muscle against the USS Abraham Lincoln, so they've got the rhetoric flying all around. Iran certainly does have anti-ship missiles. As WIO News reports on January 24th, it actually has several that could pose a serious threat if the American carrier strike group gets within range. The Khalij Fars ballistic missile, which is also known as the Persian Gulf, has a 300-kilometer or 186-mile range, carries a 650 kilogram or around 1,433 pound warhead, and may be able to reach speeds of up to Mach 4. Iran's Noor and Qadir systems offer coastal defense against ships that come very close. The Zulfiqar Basir reportedly fires via a mobile launch system and has a 700 kilometer or 434
So here are some of the munitions that Iran has available in their strike package.
mile range. And finally, the Abu Mahdi cruise missile supposedly flies at low altitudes, uses AI to adjust its flight path as it hurtles toward its target, and has a range of more than 1,000.
All right, we're going to go right to the White House right now. We have President Trump jumping in.
Been a little busy day, right? We had a good morning, and now we're having a good evening, and we're going to a premiere in a little while. But there's nothing more important than what we're doing right now, in my opinion. Today I'm signing a historic executive order to combat the scourge of addiction and substance abuse. We're calling it the Great American, probably in every country. We're calling it the Great American
We're going to go
Recovery Initiative. I'm grateful to be joined by co-chairs of this sweeping new effort, Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Live from the White
and
House.
Senior Advisor to the White House Great American Recovery Initiative, Catherine Burgum. Thank you both very much. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Where's Bobby? Bobby? Oh, Bobby, come make me. I love Bobby. You're doing a great job, Catherine, all right? Do we think so? Who's doing a better job, him or your husband? Maybe your husband. He's doing a good job.
I'm just getting started.
They're both doing very well. Now you're going to do better than both of them. Thanks as well to Attorney General Pam Bondi, Secretary Doug Burgum, Secretary Scott Turner, Secretary Doug Collins, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, who's got some pretty good news, Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty McCary, NIH Director Dr. Jay Bhattacharya. Oh, I've gotten good at that. You are. Administrator of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, Dr. Mehmet Oz, who's doing a fantastic job, and Director of the Office of National Drug Control Policy, Sarah Carter. I also want to introduce a great friend of mine who happened to be here, and he's very much committed to this. He knows how important it is for our country. He's built a tremendous American company. It's called WeatherTech. I guess you've seen the ads. I've seen the ads. I think they're great ads, but more importantly, it's a great product. David McNeil. David, congratulations on what you've done. It's incredible.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Really great. And the president of WeatherTech, Ryan Granger. Ryan, congratulations. What a great job. They built an American company, and it's a thriving company, too, so with a great product.
It's great to be here in America.
You know, when I was in the private sector, I'd always buy the floor mats, but now that I'm president, I no longer have to buy floor mats. But you made a great floor mat, and you still do lots of other things. Many of those with me today have personally known the heartache of a loved one taken by drug or alcohol addiction. I do. Just like millions of American families, every year we lose an estimated 300,000 people to drug and alcohol abuse, and the real number is probably much, much higher than that. Thankfully, drug overdose deaths plummeted by 21% in the last year. We're working very hard on it. We've closed the southern border, seized over 47 million fentanyl pills and 10,000 pounds of fentanyl powder. That's a record, and I formally designated Dr. And I'll tell you what, we have a group of doctors, some of them behind me, who have just been incredible, and they've really wanted this, designated the drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. And for some reason, they didn't want to do that until we came along, but they are indeed foreign terrorist organizations. With our action in the Gulf of America, that sounds so nice when I hear the Gulf of America, drugs entering our country by sea are down 97%. So when you see the boats being hit, those boats kill on average 25,000 people a boat. So that's 25,000, I would assume mostly American lives, but lives are being saved. Now we're taking a bold action to help Americans struggling with all forms of addiction so they can get the help and the support that they need to free themselves from the horrible burden of dependency. The Great American Recovery Initiative will bring together federal, state, local, and private sector resources to support addiction, recovery, treatment, and prevention. And it will help mobilize the full resources and authority of the federal government to help stop this tremendous plague. And I'd now like to invite Secretary Kennedy to start, and then Catherine Burgum, and then I'll sign the order, which I've just signed. And wanted to make sure the signature was good, took my time. And let me just see, pretty good, not pretty good. Let's give it a 10, okay, for Catherine. But I'd like Bobby to say a few words, and Catherine, thank you very much, everybody. Please.
Mr. President, thank you for your leadership, for signing an executive order that tells the truth about one of the greatest challenges that our country faces. Addiction is not a moral failure, it is a disease. It's chronic, it's treatable, and for too long our nation has responded with fragmentation, with stigmatization, and silence instead of science, compassion, and coordination. Today, President Trump changes that. With the Great American Recovery Initiative, we finally bring the full strength of the federal government
announcing
together
the Great American
across
Recovery
healthcare,
Initiative.
law
I like this.
enforcement, housing, labor, faith communities, and the private sector to save lives, restore families, and rebuild communities that addiction has hollowed out. Nearly 50 million Americans suffer from substance use disorder. Many never receive treatment. Even more don't believe that help is possible. That is not because recovery doesn't work. It's because our systems
Everybody hit that
have
like
failed
button
to
for
reach
me.
the people where they are early enough, long enough, and with dignity. This initiative fixes that. We will align federal programs instead of letting them operate in silos. We will set clear, measurable goals and report honestly to the American people. We will use evidence-based care, modern science, and continuous support, just as we do for heart disease, diabetes, and other chronic illnesses. We will focus on prevention before addiction takes hold. We will intervene early. We will expand access to treatment that leads to real long-term recovery. And we will support re-entry because recovery does not end when treatment ends. It succeeds when people return to their families, their jobs, and their communities with purpose and with hope. As co-chair of this initiative alongside of Catherine Burgum, whose leadership and commitment strengthens this work, I pledge urgency, accountability, and honesty. Catherine and I share the experience of having been addicted and long-term recovery. But almost everybody in this room and almost everybody in our country has been touched by addiction. Steve Witkoff, who's here, had an extraordinary son, Andrew, who was a superstar boy, a straight A student, an athlete, and a wonderful leader, and lost that son to addiction. President Trump has talked about his own family's struggle with addiction. All of us are touched. If it touches these people, it can hurt every American. And President Trump has often talked about, with compassion, about the families who lose children to this disease. 100,000 children a year until recently. Now it's about 76,000. Those families are devastated forever. And the cost to our country, not only in dollars, but in just the malaise and the despair that it imposes, is incalculable. We are going to listen to states, localities, frontline providers, and tribal nations. We will partner with communities and faith-based organizations. We will work with employers, clinicians, and recovery leaders who know what works on the ground. President Trump has already acted decisively, securing the border against deadly drugs, signing the Halt Fentanyl Act, strengthening treatment programs, expanding access to naloxone, medication-assisted treatments, and investing billions in prevention and recovery. This executive order builds on that record and accelerates it. Recovery is not a side issue, it's an economic issue, a workforce issue, a family issue, a national security issue. When Americans recover, communities grow stronger. When families heal, children thrive. And when we confront addiction with courage instead of complacency, we reclaim the promise of our country. This initiative is about life, it's about responsibility, and it's about building a great American recovery together. With this executive order and with major announcements that I will announce next week, we are taking decisive action to make America healthy again. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby, and great job. And you're doing a fantastic job. And I saw his wife yesterday, and she confirmed that he's doing a fantastic job. So she's on your side. We know that. She's great. And Oz, thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Catherine, please, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you so much. Your leadership today, relative to this announcement about the Great American Recovery, is a gift to all Americans who are suffering from the brain disease of addiction. I also want to thank First Lady Melania Trump for her leadership during your first administration, and now the work she's doing championing youth and children, especially related to foster care, where early trauma and instability are often consequences of the disease of addiction. Addictions touch this administration in real and profound ways. President Trump, you've openly spoke about your brother Fred, who struggled with addiction, shaped your life and your understanding of this disease. And Susie Wiles carries the lived experience of her father, the late, great Pat Summerall, whose recovery journey became a source of hope for millions. Vice President Vance has shared his story of his mother's battle and recovery. And as Secretary Kennedy just said, he brings his own lived experience, proof that recovery is not theoretical, it is possible. These stories matter because they are not isolated. They reflect the reality of the over 190 million Americans, that's half our nation, who are impacted in some way by the disease of addiction. And I am one of them. I started drinking in high school, and I was a blackout drinker from the start. For 20 years I struggled, relapsing constantly starting over, constantly trying to stay sober and failing.
Boy.
I reached a point where I truly did not
feeling.
believe there was one single reason for me to keep living, and I was suicidal at the end of my drinking. One day I was out walking alone. I didn't have faith, I wasn't religious, but something in me said I should ask for help. And out loud to no one, because it was just me, I said, I don't know if anyone is there, but I need help. And that was the day I became sober. 15 years later, I found myself somehow standing in front of people as First Lady of North Dakota, thanks to him. But I was asking people to share their stories openly about addiction so we could eliminate the shame and stigma, so more people would reach out for help and more lives could be saved. And today I'm standing here in this incredibly beautiful
I am personally
Oval
a
Office.
big advocate
And if
of
not for the
removing the
grace of God,
stigma
I would
of
not be
recovery,
alive today
mental
with over
health,
23
addiction.
years in recovery.
Good for her.
That's why I'm here, and my message is simple: never give up hope for recovery. Mr. President, I also want to thank you for allowing me to stand here with you today. I was in this building in 2017 when the administration announced the national response to the opioid crisis. And nearly a decade later, the crisis remains, and in many ways it has grown worse. Not because we lack compassion, not because we lack effort, but because we never fully aligned our system with the truth. Addiction is not a moral failure. It is not a character flaw, and it's not simply a behavioral issue. Addiction is a lifelong, chronic, relapsing medical disease as real as diabetes, cancer, and heart disease. And when we fail to treat it as such, we don't treat the disease, and we pay mightily for the consequences. Emergency rooms, jails, foster care, overdose deaths, and broken families. The Great American Recovery changes that. This initiative represents a fundamental shift from reaction to prevention, from fragmentation to coordination, from stigma to science, from short-term fixes to long-term recovery.
Do not spam my chat.
Federal leadership across
Thank
health,
you.
justice, labor, housing, veterans, social services, the faith office, and education around one single shared truth. When addiction is treated early and correctly, people recover and families heal. Addiction is a generational disease, and if we don't treat it properly, it repeats from parent to child, from community to community. And when we treat it like a lifelong condition, the condition that it is, we stop that cycle. We save lives, we restore families, we rebuild communities, we return people to dignity, purpose, and productivity. Mr. President, thank you for seeing this moment clearly. With your leadership and the Great American Recovery Initiative, we're establishing a new framework and a new national response to the disease of addiction, including treatment and care that parallels other chronic diseases. With this framework and treatment, recovery is not the exception, it is the expectation. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. You know, I saw them riding horses in a video, and they said, "Who is that?" I was talking about her, not him. And they explained it. I said, "I'm going to hire him because anybody has somebody like you to be with. It's an amazing tribute, and it's a great couple, amazing couple." And she's very much a part of his big success. He was a fantastic success, as you know, having been one of the most successful business people. And I saw him campaigning, a great governor, two-term governor. He did a fantastic job in North Dakota, and he's done a great job. And I'll tell you what, Catherine's a very big part of it. I see it. It's just really one of the fantastic couples. So I appreciate it. What a beautiful job you've just done. And I'm going to give this to you, and you can figure out what you're going to do with Bobby. You know? But let's have a good picture of the two of them and everyone else. And I'd like to ask Steve Witkoff also to say a couple of words while we're finished, because
so
he's
there
a very
you see
special person,
President
one who
Trump
very well,
signing the
an incredible
American
person.
Recovery Act.
So if you don't mind, Steve, I'll ask you to do that in just a second.
Can't be
All right?
mad at that. We're going to jump right over to Mayor Jacob Fry of Minneapolis from earlier this morning. Let's hear what he has to say.
What is different today than was yesterday in terms of immigration enforcement, local policing, cooperation, and the occupation itself? And has the federal government offered you and the governor reassurances that there will be 2 independent investigations as well as a detailed plan for a drawdown of federal agents in Minneapolis?
You got a lot in that question there. Look, we've had good and productive meetings with both President Trump as well as the border czar Homan. And what I will say is I will believe it when I see it. They have talked about drawing down the numbers in terms of federal agents, ICE, and Border Patrol in Minneapolis, and that is essential. The reality, however, is that we need Operation Metro Surge to end. It is not about creating safety in Minneapolis. If the goal was to find an antidote to chaos, there would be a very straightforward answer, which is to end Operation Metro Surge, remove the federal agents, and we got to move forward. Are we hopeful for progress? Are we hopeful that there will be a drawdown in the force that we're presently seeing in this invasion in Minneapolis? Absolutely. I'm hopeful. Do I expect the conduct to immediately change? That is my expectation. That is what we are insisting upon. But again, I'll believe it when I see it. I'll start here.
Do you have any meetings planned with the president while you're in town, or anyone on Capitol Hill before you leave?
We have a number of meetings that are planned with a number of different elected officials and senators over there at the Capitol. And, the message is going to be very clear. Right now, ICE is being utilized as an occupying force. This is not about ICE doing normal ICE stuff. This is about indiscriminately.
This is Jacob Fry, the mayor of Minneapolis. Hit the like button, guys. Let's get this to 200 likes. Subscribe to the channel. He's talking about the drawdown that we saw earlier from Tom Homan.
Afraid to go to the grocery store, get to work. And we've had Minneapolis residents by the tens of thousands stand up, not just to say this ain't okay, but to offer safeguard and protection and help for those communities that are disproportionately being targeted right now. And so the ask is very straightforward. There's a lot of areas where cities, and these mayors can tell you, cities around the country do need help. They need help with monies for housing. They need money for food. They need support for law enforcement. They need to keep their respective cities safe. ICE is not doing that. I'll go here and go over here. Not today, I don't, but certainly the door is open and I'm willing to meet with them before. Like I said, we had a collegial and productive conversation last we talked, and I certainly would welcome another one.
There's a active battle right now on Capitol Hill since there's a split off DHS funding. What's your message to them?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
There's a funding.
That's absolutely what they said.
Some senators, Democratic senators, will split off DHS funding and move forward with the rest of that. What's your message? Should they hold the line?
Look at the way the funding is presently being utilized. If we were talking about safety, there's a lot of good recipes for how that money could ultimately be used. If it were to be used for more police officers, I would get on board. If it were used for additional housing supports, count me in. If it were used for SNAP benefits or areas that would actually improve the safety of our city, I think there are mayors around the country that would say absolutely. But when you have 3,000 to 4,000 ICE
That's okay.
and border control coming to a city,
A lot of people who live in America don't speak English either or understand it. It's fine.
their very important job of keeping our city safe.
We do what we can do.
What I would say is that ain't working. So we need an immediate end to
Dun, 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 dun. Oh, I'm not muted.
I'm glad that it's being drawn down right now, but this needs to stop.
President Trump said that on Truth Social yesterday that you're playing with fire by ending, not enforcing federal immigration laws. What do you have to say to that? Do you feel like that's a threat from the president?
Hit the like button.
So the president mentioned yesterday that I was playing with fire by not enforcing federal immigration laws. So our police officers will do their jobs. They're not going to do somebody else's job. I'll tell you
Thanks,
the job
Frank.
of our police officers and what I want them doing. I want them spending every single minute in Minneapolis keeping people safe. And by the way, they have done an incredible job. Crime is down in virtually every category.
This live stream just broke 125,000 views. So everybody hit that like button. I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.
In virtually every neighborhood of Minneapolis, and has been trending down for well over a year. I want our police officers stopping murders from happening, preventing carjackings, responding to 911 calls. You know what I don't want them doing? I don't want them spending a single minute hunting down a father who just dropped his kids off at daycare, who's about to go work a 12-hour shift, who happens to be from Ecuador. That guy makes our city a better place. For the people that have been here in our city, they're more Minneapolis than I am. They've been here 29, 30 years, working as a baker or an insurance agent, working to improve their lives, their families' lives, and the whole city of Minneapolis. We're proud to have them. They've made Minneapolis a better place. They've done nothing wrong. If the goal is to go after criminals and violent offenders, the answer is of course. The answer is yes. That's not what we're talking about here.
Mr. Mayor, I'm interested. Obviously, you just told a room full of mayors your cities could be next. What steps do you think cities should be taking in case this could happen to their cities moving forward?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So the question was, what steps should cities around the country be taking? First off, do not think about this as just a problem in another city. This is a threat to the endurance of our democracy, the endurance of our republic. When you have a federal government that is laying siege on a city, deploying thousands of agents and using the Department of Justice as a weapon, going after both local leaders and politicians that are simply undergoing one of the most basic responsibilities that we have, which is speaking on behalf of our constituents. When you've got a federal government that goes after people simply because they disagree with an administration, that's not a Republican or a Democratic problem. That should be a concern for everybody that is a patriot.
Like and subscribe, guys.
If you care about freedom, if you care about liberty, if you love your small town in the middle of America or your city, this is something in a time when you all got to be standing up right now. So stand up, speak out, make very clear that this ain't right, because it isn't. And, one more thing, make sure we're talking on a consistent basis to our constituents about what's going on. And we've got an important battlefield that we are fighting on right now. And that battlefield is the law.
Hungarian food's great, too. You're welcome. Thanks for being here.
The threat to our democracy and our republic. Judges are importantly standing up and issuing orders that say, hang on a second, this is not a partisan issue, this is one about America. And we can't allow residents of our city, like Renee and Alex, to be collateral damage in this really awful invasion that we're seeing. And so again, I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic. To be very clear, I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic. I believe that the tide is turning right now, and the people that deserve the credit, are the tens of thousands of Minneapolis and Minnesota residents. They give me hope every single day. I mean, they are showing the whole country what it means to be a proud American, what it means to be a patriot. I could not be prouder to be from Minneapolis. Thanks so much.
So there is Jacob Fry, the mayor of Minneapolis, coming out and speaking. The world's holding its breath. U.S. warships are reportedly tightening the ring around Iran. We saw the president sign the American Recovery Act. I think that's something very positive. And I want to thank everybody for coming out and joining me today here on the program. Like and subscribe. We do this several times a week, and I would love to have you come and join me on every one. So from the pineapple to the Big Apple, from Maine to Spain, thank you for joining me on the Zero Dark Tony Show. I am Tony D, your host. Truth is a moving target, and I will see you all on the next one. Have a great day. Be safe out there.